Today is April 25th, 2026. We are at Paul Robeson Day in Petworth. This is Ken Rose. Do I have permission to record this interview today?
Sure.
All right. Can you just state your name for the camera?
Mike Golash.
All right, Mr. Golash. And what brings you out to Paul Robeson Day today?
Well, I basically have followed Paul Robeson's story for many, many years, basically. I was at the 100th anniversary of his birth at a ceremony we had at Howard University in 1999. And a good friend of mine, Bill Bleish, who's a retired school teacher in Baltimore now, his father was on the security detail protecting Paul Robeson at the Peekskill attack against him by the right-wingers in the late 1940s. So I have a long history of Paul Robeson, and Milt Rosen, who was the founder of the Progressive Labor Party, had talked with Milt Rosen, been friendly with his son, so we have a lot of ties with him him or his family over many, many years.
Good. So you being here, and you, like you had said, going to the 1999 celebration, so you have a lot of admiration for Paul Robeson. So what is it about him that you admire?
Well, I think the main thing that he was a communist. He was willing to stand up against U.S. imperialism and U.S. capitalism. He spoke at the Paris Peace Conference in the late 1940s, indicating that he would never let American soldiers fight Soviet soldiers, that they should join together as they did in the fight against fascism. That got him a lot of trouble with the U.S. government, but it was the right thing to say. It just showed how courageous he was as a fighter for the rights of working people.
Very good. So he was very much involved politically, but also like he was an artist at the end of the day. That's how he kind of expressed himself also.
Right.
So what ways do you express yourself through art or your culture or activism, or just any activities that you do day to day?
Well, I mean, basically, I moved to Washington in 1971 to help organize against the Vietnam War. I did that for a number of years. When the war ended in 1975, I got a job the following year working for Metro, and I was basically active in the labor movement there for 34 years. I led the 1978 Metro strike. I eventually became president of Local 689. I fought for better wages and benefits for the workers at Metro. I helped wage a fight against racism many, many times at Metro. So that's more or less my history.
Wow, so it's a long history. You did a lot. Wow. Now, just seeing where DC was before with the Metro movement, with the Civil Rights movement, and seeing how the administration has kind of turned in the present times, how do you, what are the differences that you see in activism then compared to now?
Well, I mean, basically, if you think back, I came to Washington before Home Rule began, basically. I mean, essentially, if you really look at the history, we've had Home Rule for 50 years, but in reality, the inequality in Washington has worsened in those 50 years. So with Home Rule, it did not lead to an improvement in conditions of life for black people in Washington. It actually led to displacement of tens of thousands of black people from the city into a situation where now it's almost unaffordable for a black working class family to live in the District of Columbia any longer. So we have to reevaluate what the fight for Home Rule is all about. Basically understands the fight really is not so much a question of Home Rule, it's a question of how are we going to deal with these rich developers and businessmen who essentially run the city regardless of who we elect as political leaders.
Because it always starts small. I think everybody looks at the presidential election and thinks, so that's the end all be all. And you have to pay attention to the midterms, and you have to pay attention to the people who are watching over your ward or your county. It's more important to pay attention to those people and what they're doing.
Well, I think the lesson that I learned is that real power comes from the working class. In 1978, when Metro decided we're not going to pay these workers the cost of living raise they're entitled to, it was a period when the workforce had been transitioned from a predominantly white workforce to a predominantly African American workforce. The workers said, if you don't pay us that pay raise on July, we're shutting this city down. So none of the politicians supported us. We walked out on strike for 6 days. Jimmy Carter declared a national emergency. The city couldn't function. Pay these workers what they want and let them get back to work. So it showed me that regardless of who you have in political office, Walter Washington at that time, Marion Barry, that didn't make any difference. It was the fact we were willing to walk out and use our power to bring about the type of changes we wanted to see.
It's all about community.
Right.
Definitely sticking up for one another. So I see right there you have a button that says proud to be ATU. So what is ATU?
That's the Amalgamated Transit Union. We represent bus drivers, train operators, mechanics throughout the metro area.
Now, for Paul Robeson and Uziki Nelson, arts and culture is integral to community expression and connection. So how do you connect to your community? Through your activism or through your cultural expression?
Well, I mean, my main form of activism, literally for the last 50 years, has been with transit workers in Washington, fighting over wages, fighting over benefits for them, fighting over health care for them, fighting over safe conditions on the job, fighting against, discriminatory hiring policies. There was a long period of time when Metro would not hire people with criminal records. And if you think about the war on drugs, it meant that half the younger black people in Washington had criminal records. So essentially, we were excluding a lot of DC residents from jobs with the Transit Authority. So we had a big fight over that to eliminate all those barriers to hiring at Metro. When Metro is really a good paying job for working class people in the city, and so that was part of the struggle I was involved in.
Are there still struggles that the Metro Union is dealing with now that are somewhat similar to what you've experienced in the past?
I mean, yes, I think that Metro, it still thinks that we're overpaid and have too good benefits, basically. It's true, our wages and our benefits are probably the best in the transit industry across the country. Metro doesn't like that. The local governments don't like that. They feel we can provide service cheaper. We're saying, no, let's look at the other side of the picture. Transit creates value in this city. Look at development in downtown Washington. Look at development along your major thoroughfares. I mean, basically, we've added billions and billions of dollars of value to this city through our labor, and we deserve what we get.
Absolutely. And you can definitely tell the significance of the Metro from 3 to 5, from every weekday. You definitely see the need for it there, absolutely. So what hopes do you have for the future of your communities or the community or DC in general?
Well, I think my hope is basically to get rid of capitalism. My hope is to build a working class movement which gets people to understand that we create value in society. These rich people, they extract that value for us through a wage system, through interest, however you want to describe it. So my idea is to build a strong working class movement to take power from these rich people and build a society which we don't have racism, where we don't have sexism, we don't have a wage system, we don't have all these divisions in the working class, where people work together as a community to meet their needs and prosper.
Something that we all hope for, yeah. But thank you very much, Mr. Mike, for your time. Very appreciative.
Okay.